Today's spooky spot, we're having a look at the McFarlane Toys Rob Zombie action figure. Not really sure how much action you're going to be getting in this figure, as it looks more like a display piece than anything else. It is also really heavy. Probably hard to gauge by watching this video, but let me tell you, Spot's telling you right now, this is a heavy figure. And probably a lot of it is chalked up to the display base that comes with this figure, as the display base is this stone pillar, kind of a stone platform with zombie in the back corner there. Speaking of corner, there's a picture in the top corner of Rob Zombie. Big fan of Rob Zombie and White Zombie. On the back of the package, well, actually, let's turn it sideways. Side of the package, it says Rob Zombie comes with an hydraulic claws and a base made of stone and skulls. One of our Super Stage figures only from McFarlane Toys. It says the ultimate in human agony, complete with custom diorama. Also available, there was an Alice Cooper figure as well, which Spot one of these days will review as well. Other figures that were being released at the time that this figure was released, there was an Austin Powers Series 2, Bob and Doug McKenzie, Slapshot, Spawn Nitro Riders, and Spawn Classics. For everything, you can head over to www.spawn.com if you want to check out more from McFarlane Toys. Spot's going to take a terrifying break, get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to have a better look at the Rob Zombie action figure. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When you get Rob Zombie out of packaging, there's some assembly required. I say some, it's very little actually. The top of the stone platform, you have to actually put on this kind of fencing piece to the top. It's actually just got a couple of holes at the top there. You just peg that into place. But the end result, though, is really, even excluding that, this stone base is really neat. It's kind of an amalgamation. It's kind of combined between stone. There's some stone on the actual pillars and the base, and then you've got some skulls there as well. And over the skulls, you've got some slime that they put over top of it. It's a nice piece, but it is heavy. I mean, that's basically where all the weight of the figure comes from. There's very little weight when it comes to Rob Zombie himself, but the display base is where you get all the weight. It's actually finished too, all the way around. The only place where it's not finished is the bottom piece. But considering you would be looking at it like this, the fact that they have this finished is nice, and I appreciate that. Paint, pretty good. No real issues with paint. I don't have any concerns or anything like that. It's very shiny, but I like the coloring. I really like the coloring of it. That also brings us then to Rob Zombie. Now, he's not bad, but he's not super articulated either. He's going to be very, very limited. When it comes to his face, let's bring the camera in. Face-wise, he's pretty good. Now, keeping in mind, this is an older figure as well. It's not going to be to the level of what we're going to be seeing now. But for it being Rob Zombie, I would think it holds out pretty good. You may not even be able to see it. Maybe you can. You can actually make out the little tiny pupils inside his eyes there. And he's got this really evil grin, kind of the pale face paint that he would wear before, or we used to wear. That was before he became like the director and he wanted to direct weird movies. Didn't really like his take on Halloween, but I respect the man for trying to come up with something different. He's always squatting. No matter what you do, this figure will always be squatting. He doesn't really have much in the way of articulation. In fact, why don't we just cover that right now? His head does rotate, but only really left to right. His shoulders, or his arms I should say, are on pin hinge sockets. So you can see that there's that hinge right there, but it's really limited. It is really, really limited, and I actually just had a wire come off here, right on the end. Don't worry, that's not actually part of the figure. Spot just forgot to I cut the wire that has his arm in the packaging. I just didn't take the wire off. Yeah, it's not a bad figure, but yeah, when you get to the shoulders, they're hinged as if they should be able to have articulation, but You can move them forward and back, but to get them out, man, they're really difficult to move out. And I don't want to bend them too much in case then we would have a fright on our hands. Additionally, as well, he does have a swivel in the arm, kind of at the kind of glove upper forearm area. Same thing can be said on this side here. His waist is on a swivel, and then his legs are individually hinged, but only as a swivel. So, I mean, really, unless you kind of want to have him meditating, you know, it's not going to make much sense to have his legs hinged. For that matter, they almost could have just left it with no articulation, being the fact that because he is pre-posed, you're not going to really do much with him anyways. You can just easily put him on his display stand. Now, there are peg holes, and I'm trying to see, is there an actual peg on this stand? I don't actually even see any pegs on this. Do you see any pegs on this stand? It is camouflaged. So it is almost misleading, unless I'm missing something. I don't see it. I don't see actually a peg point to which you can display the figure. Because realistically, the figure has peg holes, but when you're standing him, there's really no area where you could peg him into. At least not what I can see. So you kind of have to just kind of have him hovering and just get the arms and the legs to kind of just stand right, and then you can have him standing like that. But it is really odd, unless again Spot is really missing those display pegs, and I don't see any pegs whatsoever on this stand. It's probably like right in front of me too, and Spot just does not see it. Maybe it's on the skulls. No, it's not on the skulls. So yeah, I don't know why he has peg holes on his feet, but you can't really peg him into the display stand. He just kind of does this thing here. He has these claws, which I guess are pretty neat. Little hydraulic claws. Kind of got that steam, not really steampunk, but he's kind of got that like more organic kind of techno look to it. It hinges, but there's no place where you can actually remove this from his arms. So kind of that same logic as his feet. They should have almost just molded the piece in place, unless you really want to just kind of, you know, bend them like that. But there is actually a little clip right there. There's a clip, and there's a little slot in his arm where you can take the arm gauntlet and more or less kind of peg it in further into his arm. But it doesn't really sit in there very well either. I guess also too, like the majority of the figure is basically just black and white. A lot of gray, a lot of black, and basically just the white in his face. Which I guess also helps that his eyes stand out so much, because his eyes are kind of more of a bluish color that stands up against the white of his face. He's got long hair, long, very mangly hair that would be very fitting for somebody like Rob Zombie. He's an iffy figure. He's the kind of thing that sure looks good on a display stand, and as he is now, I mean, he's a neat figure to get if you're a fan of Rob Zombie. But the biggest draw, I would say, is probably the backdrop that he's standing on. If you had Rob Zombie just strictly on his own, because he doesn't really have a lot of articulation to him, he's not a bad figure, but I would say it's not for somebody as a casual collector would want to pick up. You're probably likely going to be picking him up because you are a Rob Zombie fan. The Alice Cooper, I think, is a stronger figure than Rob Zombie here. Rob Zombie, I kind of feel like they just threw extra things with him to try to jazz him up. I like the details. I really like the face, but it's not a very impressive figure if you really take this part out of the equation. If it's just strictly Rob Zombie, he's a little bit of a weak figure. Though, again, Spot takes nothing away. I really like that face. I'm going to give, rating-wise, to Rob Zombie, I'm going to only give him a 6.5. Great face, but there's really not a lot that is a draw to this set, other than the fact that he comes with the display stand. If he didn't come with the display stand, the figure on his own, not overly great. Sorry, Rob Zombie. I'm so terribly sorry. Today's spooky spot, though, we were having a look at the McFarlane Toys Rob Zombie figure. I was going to say action figure, but it's not really quite an action figure. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more spooky spots heading your way. Thanks for watching as you always do. Where's his face? There's his face. Thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you guys next time.